He said it a little bit ago.
Welcome everyone to our special called meeting of City Council on Friday, July 17th at City Hall to consider the revision of Ordinance 2223. Can we have a roll call, please, to establish quorum?
Ms. Schneider?
Here.
Mr. DeVito?
Here.
Mr. McClung?
Here.
Ms. Eller? Mr. Mitchell?
Here.
Mr. Thomas?
Here.
We have 5.
All right. Do send pledge allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, this is a special called meeting only to discuss the ordinance amendments. Mr. DeVito.
Move to assign this ordinance a number and place it on its first reading.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? So moved.
The ordinance number will be 2228. An ordinance amending Title 7.65 of the Eureka Springs Municipal Code and its enabling ordinance to clarify protected civil rights. Whereas the City Council of the City of Eureka Springs desires to better codify its regulation of civil rights protection within the city, and whereas there has been recent legislation adopted by the state of Arkansas in the area of civil rights, and whereas the city wishes to promote the free exercise of commerce, and whereas certain protected classes of individuals have previously been recognized by both state and federal law, and whereas the city can promote the free exercise of commerce by further regulating restraints of trade based on discrimination against individuals in these recognized protected classes. Now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Eureka Springs that Chapter 7.65 of the Municipal Code is amended as follows. Section 1. The following subsections shall be amended as follows. 7.65.01 shall be amended to read as follows. 7.65.01 Purpose. The purpose of this chapter is to protect and safeguard the right and opportunity of all persons to be free from discrimination based on real or perceived race, ethnicity, national origin, age, gender, gender identity, gender expression, familial status, marital status, religion, sexual orientation, disability, or veteran status. This chapter's purpose is also to promote the public health and welfare of all persons who live or work in the city of Eureka Springs, and to ensure that all persons within the city have equal access to employment, housing, and public accommodations. 7.65.02D shall be amended to read as follows. D. Discrimination, or discriminatory means any act, policy, or practice that has the effect of subjecting any person to differential treatment as a result of that person's real or perceived race, ethnicity, national origin, age, if 18 years or of age or older, gender, gender identity, gender expression, familial status, marital status, religion, sexual orientation, disability, or veteran status. This section shall not remove any disabilities created by local, state, or federal law with regard to the consumption, purchase, possession, or other use of alcoholic beverages by those persons under the age of 21 years. 7.65.04A9 shall be amended to read as follows. 9. For a real estate operator, a real estate broker, a real estate salesperson, a financial institution, an employee of any of these, or any other person, for the purpose of inducing a real estate transaction from which such person may benefit financially, to represent that a change has occurred, or will or may occur in the composition with respect to that race, ethnicity, national origin, age, gender, gender identity, gender expression, familial status, marital status, religion, sexual orientation, disability, or veteran status of the owners or occupants in the block, neighborhood, or area in which the real property is located, or to represent that this change will or may result in the lowering of property values, an increase in criminal or antisocial behavior, or a decline in the equality of schools in the block, neighborhood, or area in which the real property is located. Blockbusting. Section 2, that the enabling ordinance for Title 7.65, that is ordinance number 2223, is hereby amended to remove the term socioeconomic background from the first whereas clause. Section 3, all provisions and ordinances of the City of Eureka Springs in conflict with the provisions of this ordinance are hereby repealed, and all other provisions of the ordinances of the City of Eureka Springs not in conflict with the provisions of this ordinance shall remain in full force and effect. Section 4, severability. Should any sentence, paragraph, clause, phrase, or section of this ordinance be adjudged or held to be unconstitutional, illegal, or invalid, the same shall not affect the validity of this ordinance as a whole or any part or provision thereof, other than the part so decided to be invalid, illegal, or unconstitutional, and shall not affect the validity of the Eureka Springs Municipal Code as a whole.
Mr. DeVito.
Move to approve ordinance number 2228 on its first reading.
Second.
Mr. McClung.
In the discussion the other night, all we had talked about changing was just the removal of socioeconomic background, which is identified in section 2. What were the other changes made in the other paragraphs? Because there's nothing that defines that, and I don't have a copy of that with me, and I don't have it committed to memory. I'm just curious.
Socioeconomic was removed out of the other 3 paragraphs also.
Okay.
It was in there. And the language about alcohol and 21-year-olds was added.
That was the only thing that was added?
And yes, and there was one, and you pointed out one other one that was removed out of one of the paragraphs because it didn't match any of the other paragraphs.
Some paragraphs had "and veteran status," and so
it was changed to "or"
now they all
in
say
all,
"or."
so that it wasn't a requirement that it be multiple.
I see. So primarily the additional change was other than just to make it flow more correctly, the adding the 21 years of age.
21-year-old age was to prevent any individuals who were 18 or so to come in and claim they were being discriminated against because we wouldn't serve them in bars.
I got that.
Ms. Snyder.
Okay, like Terry, I don't have the other one in front of me. We talked about before in regards to protecting visitors also. So in section 1, do we need to include visitors or no? Is that strictly the living room part?
Actually, I think it would not be a bad thing to refer to the tourists in that.
Visitors. Because I know we changed title and stuff to
because
include that.
we did, when we did do whereas clauses to give the history of what we're doing here, we do mention that it's for their commerce, for their business part. It wouldn't hurt if you want to put it in there. I did not. I thought about it at the time, but because what you directed me to do, I didn't want to make too many changes and have too many objections.
Well, I think we definitely
here,
need
there,
to
and everywhere.
include our visitors because we have so many. And we changed title, the original one, to include visitors.
Mr. McClung.
She's bringing that up. Visitors, does that mean visitors as perpetrators or as victims?
Visitors who don't live here but come to our town.
And could be on either side of the fence. They
Right,
could be.
exactly so.
They should, so I think anybody, if it happens inside the city limits, isn't it already covered? I mean, then
This is very specific, narrow wording right here.
I think it's a question for the city attorney. Is it covered?
Well, I think that the most of that language actually in that area, it was the original language that was in the original ordinance to show the purpose, or at least part of the purpose. I think the other part of it in that same the sentence before that shows the purpose is for all persons. But if you want to be more clear, certainly a sentence could be put in there.
I know
that
that.
it is to promote equality among the tourists, the visitors also. It's up to you.
Well, it's still in the title,
Just a
right?
moment. David,
Question for the attorney. Since we're making these changes based on recommendation from another attorney and we're making these recommendations based on your recent visit at the Municipal League, where you came away with an impression that we might be entering into a litigious period of time over this ordinance, is it really necessary to add visitors at that time, or is that just going to complicate the issue?
Well, more than likely, if we do end up in litigation, there'll be an argument of whether that this is violative of the Interstate Commerce Acts and protections of the federal government or not, what the state was trying to do or not, or by limiting. So it wouldn't hurt to include language about visitors or those, because those would actually be individuals that are coming across federal state lines, and thereby we would show that we are outside necessarily just the state's direct control of citizens of the state of Arkansas.
So you're almost recommending putting visitors in when you just said
I
that.
started to put the language in there, but I didn't.
Thank you.
I knew the council hadn't instructed me to do that.
Thank you.
James?
Well, the purpose of this ordinance is therefore now be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Eureka Springs that Chapter 7.6 be amended as follows, and we're only talking about Section 1. Wouldn't the initial wording still stay in the initial ordinance?
This is the same word, the same language. That portion of it is the same language that is in the original ordinance.
So
The only change made to that paragraph is the removing of socioeconomic.
So the statement of visitors remains in the original ordinance.
This is the same language. There
At
is
the title only. That's where we added visitors. It's up near the beginning of it.
Mr. McClung?
Counselor, doesn't every ordinance that the city has, doesn't it protect, safeguard, and regulate all those inside the city limits and only those inside the city limits? Is that not true?
yes, and we can't enforce our
Then what's the
ordinances on
difference? I mean, it's
others
fine like it
outside
is.
unless they're inside.
It covers everyone inside the city limits. If you're in the city and you perpetrate an act that is in conflict with this, then you're subject to whatever it says in the ordinance. If you're a victim and you live out of state but you're inside the city limits, then I don't see the difficulty. I think we should proceed.
Having the sentence in there, I think, gives ground for someone to attack the ordinance as being just for the locals' own protection. If you do not add wording, striking that sentence may be the better alternative to leaving it. And then there is no direct language regarding purpose being directed only at the citizens. But then it would leave it open to all.
Mr. Williams?
I'm going to go back one more time to the attorney. Your legal opinion, visitors in or out?
I think visitors need to be in for purposes of defense.
Then I'd like to make a motion to amend ordinance 222A to have the attorney put in the wording appropriate to include visitors under the context of this ordinance as a protected class.
Second.
Mr. McClung?
Well,
We need to rewrite it.
not a protected
Do
class.
do we need to take it and have it rewritten then? And so this meeting is over until that's done?
I think we just add the term.
Do we?
Amend it.
Where?
Stick it in there.
How many times and where?
Just a moment.
There.
That's all.
It's up to the attorney.
Just a moment. Mr. Weaver?
If you give me a moment, I think I can add probably a sentence to that will accomplish what I believe council's looking for.
Do we need to take a break?
If we could have 5 minutes and I'll consult, that'll give me a little bit time to...
I make a motion we take a break.
For a 5-minute break?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, 5-minute recess. All right, we will adjourn once again and hear from our city attorney on his recommendation.
At the end of the third sentence from the bottom of paragraph that we were discussing there, it says live or work. Ms. Schneider made a suggestion of take out the word or before work, put the word or after it, and then put visitors or visit. And that will, and I think that does a sufficient job. And in consulting with Mr. Williams back here, who's graciously come to help us, he's saying make as least changes as we can, and I think that probably is a good idea to not make too many changes to it.
And this is under 7.65.01 purpose.
Oh, thanks. So do I need to amend that motion or retract that motion and make a new one?
That would be my suggestion, is that we amend it to that.
I withdraw my motion that I made a while ago.
withdraw my second.
Now we want a new motion?
To amend.
Yes. I would suggest it.
I can't remember what he said. He was changing.
You come up with the wording, Ms. Snyder.
All right.
Pass it down to David,
Oh.
please.
Oh,
Thank you.
I make a motion that we accept the amended wording for ordinance 2228.
What wording?
Pardon?
Tell them what wording.
Oh, I'm
So
sorry.
the record's
To
clear.
include live, work, or visit in the city of Eureka.
yeah, that's the wording. A second.
All right, Mr. McClung.
You know, I hate to nitpick, but, you know, that's all in reference to that persons within the city have equal access to employment, housing, and public accommodations. I mean, that is kind of specific to the people that live here or want to live here, or, you know, I mean, I just think
Yeah, I don't see the
to me it
point.
doesn't even fit, but
No. I don't see the
I'm
point.
just
I'm just one.
I'd rather be all-inclusive than leave them a crack, number one. Number two, people come here to be tourists. They also come here to look for a possible place to move to. People come here for longer than a couple of days or a week, so that includes housing. People get stuck here and have had to get employment. There's a lot of stuff. It's one word that makes it more inclusive without hurting anything. I've been in here long enough working with the public and the visitors and stuff, and believe me, all those things have happened. They have needed to be employed, housed, and have public accommodations.
Mr. Williams?
Mr. Mitchell.
Mitchell, I'm sorry. David. Mitchell.
Just David.
Andy.
It's real good.
Oh, Andy.
Yeah.
Now you made me forget what I wanted to say. In this case, I really think we should stick with the legal advice we're getting, because we're going to be needing legal advice as we go through this process. So I'm comfortable with supporting the concept that our city attorney had in making the changes.
Any further discussion? All right, do we need a roll call? The amendments?
Yeah.
Okay,
Amendment.
okay, we got a motion and second to amend the ordinance in section 7.6501. We'll have a roll call.
Mr. Mitchell,
Yes.
Ms. Eller,
Yes.
Ms. Schneider,
Yes,
Mr. DeVito,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Mr. McClung,
No.
5-1.
All right. Mr. DeVito.
Have we approved ordinance on its first reading? If not, that's my motion.
second.
That motion's already there.
Yeah, I thought we did that. Rick
So
seconded
we're in
my second.
discussion, so we have to
Yeah.
vote on the motion.
So, yeah, all those, do we need that for roll call?
Is this
All those in
to
favor
take
of
action?
approving this ordinance number 2228 as amended on its first reading, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Mr.
Move
DeVito.
to suspend the rules and place ordinance number 2228 on its second reading by title only.
Second.
Okay. We need roll call on that. Okay.
Mr. DeVito.
Yes.
Ms. Schneider.
Yes.
Ms. Eller.
Yes.
Mr. McClung.
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell.
Yes.
Mr. Thomas.
Yes.
6-0.
Do we need a motion to,
She has to read it first.
Ordinance number 2228, an ordinance amending Title 7.65 of the Eureka Springs Municipal Code and its enabling ordinance to clarify protected civil rights.
Mr. DeVito?
Have to approve ordinance number 2228 on its second reading.
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, roll call. No. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Mr. DeVito?
Move to suspend the rules and place ordinance number 2228 on its third reading by title only.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Yes. Ms. Schneider.
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell.
Yes.
Mr. McClung.
Yes.
Mr. DeVito.
Yes.
Mr. Thomas.
Yes.
Ms. Zeller.
Yes.
6-0. Oh. Ordinance number 2228, an ordinance amending Title 7.65 of the Eureka Springs Municipal Code and its enabling ordinance to clarify protected civil rights.
Mr.
Move to
DeVito?
approve ordinance number 2228 on its third reading.
Second.
All those in favor?
That was going to be roll.
Aye.
Final vote.
Whoops, final vote. Final vote? Okay.
And the emergency clause.
Other than the emergency clause.
Mr. Thomas.
Yes.
Ms. Zeller.
Yes.
Ms. Schneider.
Yes.
Mr. DeVito.
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell.
Yes.
Mr. McClung.
Yes.
6-0.
Mr. DeVito?
Move to invoke the emergency clause.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay. Roll call.
Yep.
Ms. Zeller.
Yes.
Mr. DeVito.
Yes.
Mr. Thomas.
Yes.
Ms. Schneider.
Yes.
Mr. McClung.
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell.
Yes.
6-0. Emergency Clause, Section 5, that due to the fact that a large portion of the city of Eureka Springs economy is based on tourism that would be damaged by a restraint of free commerce caused by unlawful discrimination, and for the economic health, welfare, and safety of the citizens of the city, an emergency is hereby declared to exist, and this ordinance shall take effect upon its passage by the Eureka Springs City Council and signing by the Eureka Springs Mayor.
Mr. DeVito?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And so moved.
I want to
Thank
see
you.
you sign.
What?
I want to see you sign.
Sign the
Oh,
And you have a sign with a whole bunch of pins, too, different to hand them out.
no, that was the other one.
It's a photo op.
Yeah.
Butch, do you have a minute? Just,